But first, let's go right to the source. John Lauro is an attorney for former President Donald Trump, representing him in the Jack Smith probe, and he joins us now. John, thank you so much for being with us. So the president was told to appear. The president was told to appear before a grand jury just down the street from where we are here in Washington by Thursday. He didn't do it. What was the thinking about him not appearing?
Well, look what's happening to our beautiful country. For the first time in our history, a sitting president is using the Department of Justice to go after a political opponent criminally, while that political opponent is leading in the polls. And it's quite interesting. On Sunday night, the president gets an invitation to appear before a grand jury in the same week that Joe Biden is ensnarled in a massive bribery allegation, and at the same time that the President Trump is leading in the polls. So something's going on here that's not quite right. But there's no need to appear in front of any grand jury right now. President Trump did absolutely nothing wrong. He's done nothing criminal, and he's made his case that he was entitled to take these positions as president of the United States. When he saw all these election discrepancies and irregularities going on, he did what any president was required to do, because he took an oath to do exactly that.
All right, we'll dig more into that in just a minute. But first, you're going to be solely focused on the Jack Smith investigation into the aftermath of the 2020 election. You're also part of the team that was trying to dig into whether others in the former president's orbit received target letters like he did. What have you found?
Well, the bottom line is that the special prosecutor, which is really the Biden Justice Department, is after President Trump, and that's the focus. And they're accusing the president of two things, essentially. Number one, that there was some kind of effort to obstruct the January 6th count. The only thing that President Trump asked is a pause in the counting so those 7 contested states could either re-audit or recertify. I've never heard of anyone get indicted for asking for an audit. What President Trump was looking for was the truth, was to find out exactly what happened in those 7 contested states. That's just not criminal. The other statute that they're looking at is whether or not President Trump intimidated anyone or ballot stuffed. And that's an example of really the criminal justice system being used against the victim. Because here, what the president was seeing in real time after November is all these election discrepancies, all these unlawful acts at a state level. And what he asked ultimately is to find out the truth and get to the truth. And that's just not criminal.
Jonathan Turley, who, of course, is a contributor here at the Fox News Channel, everybody knows him quite well, said that Jack Smith better have the goods if he plans on bringing charges against the former president. Here's what he said.
They have to really stick the landing so that no one will question it, or few people would question it. That's going to require some very direct and strong evidence. We haven't seen that. So if Smith doesn't have that type of evidence and he's moving forward largely on the speech, then I think he will fulfill the narrative of Donald Trump. He will be the federal version of Alvin Bragg in bringing that indictment.
So, John, you mentioned some of the things that you thought that that Jack Smith may attack the president on. There's also this idea of, did he incite people to riot in that January 6th speech? Or then there's the idea, too, in Michigan, 16 people have been arrested for a false electors scheme. Could the charges be going in that direction as well? What do you think?
Well, what we see here is Donald Trump is leading in the polls, and we have Joe Biden using his Justice Department to criminalize free speech and weaponize free speech, and at the same time use that Justice Department to interfere in the election process. Don't forget, we're in the middle of a campaign right now for 2024, and for the Justice Department to interfere in that election by trying to tie up Mr. Trump in all kinds of legal proceedings is just outrageous and incredibly unfair to the American people who want to hear these candidates, who want to talk about the issues. But I would say what Mr. Smith may be is the James Comey of 2024, because really what he's going to do is show to the American people that this process is entirely unfair to President Trump, but more importantly, it's unfair to the American people who want to deal with particular issues, not get involved in this kind of retaliatory campaign against Mr. Trump, who is acting in an official capacity in 2020, carrying out his objectives. You know, they started with Plan B. back in 2016. We're now up to Plan X. The X plan is now to use the criminal justice process to intimidate President Trump, to intimidate his supporters, to go after them, and that has got to stop.
Just want to be clear that Attorney General Merrick Garland repeatedly denied that the Justice Department's investigations are politically motivated. He said he appointed Smith, whom he called a veteran career prosecutor, as special counsel to insulate the probe and give it a degree of independence from the agency's political appointees. To that, you say what?
I say that ultimately Merrick Garland has to approve this indictment. Merrick Garland wants to stay in office. The only way that they think they can stay in office is by prosecuting Mr. Trump on numerous charges around the country. This is a coordinated effort. It's a collusive effort. It's trying to tie him up in knots in the middle of a campaign that he's leading in. When have we ever seen that before in the history of the United States? You know, if I appear in court, I'm going to be representing not only the President of the United States, but the sovereign citizens of this country who deserve to hear the truth. The first thing we would ask for is let's have cameras in the courtroom so all Americans can see what's happening in our criminal justice system. And I would hope the Department of Justice would join in that effort so that we take the curtain away and all Americans get to see what's happening. This is unprecedented to threaten a president.
You might want to have that discussion with Donald Trump, because he's the one who didn't want cameras in the courtroom when he was indicted in New York. So, John Lauro,
well, that's good. Different. We're gonna have a process. We're gonna have a process in D.C.
You also can't have cameras in federal court. So I think the point is probably
you can ask for it. You can ask for it,
but you're not going to get them. John, thank you very much. Good to talk to you. Appreciate it. We'll see you again soon.
Good
to talk to you.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.